Okay then, it's a couple weeks later, and that thing is, whatever that thing is in the sky up there is out. So it stopped raining. So I'm going to get out here and go ahead and finish up this Chrysler, hopefully today. And I've spent some time today already doing one of my least favorite tasks, and that is bending up the fuel line for this thing out of this stuff I ordered off Amazon. It's 5/16. I don't know what to call this. It's like PVF coated or something like that, but it's got a coating on it. And so anyway, I can't say it's the easiest stuff to work with. It's supposed to be easy. It's easier than just plain steel, I'm sure, but it doesn't like to play very well with the bender. You have to basically bend it by hand, which it bends by hand pretty easily. But it's a 25-foot roll, and it's just like wrestling an alligator to get it all done. So I've got as close, I think, as I can to start out with, and we're just gonna have to get it under there and see what we got to do to get it to snake into place. So I'm going to do that. The tank's ready to go, except for just putting the cinder and stuff in it, and I got to work on the filler pipe that goes in the back there and clean it up. It's kind of crusty, but we'll get that done and then put it all together. I think the wire for the sending unit has broken under there, so I've got to deal with that also. And it's basically it. I think that's going to get it. So I'll catch you up just a few when I get further along with this. Alright, well, due to some poor planning on my part, this is ground to a halt again on this gas tank deal. And I'll tell you what happened this time. So on these Mopars, generally they always got two gas tank straps, and are held in with these little J bolts, and this goes through the end of the strap. The straps are up over there, so that's the hook in, and then I think that one there's got, see the little hole in the one on the bottom. So what happens is this thing goes through there, and it's supposed to be where you can, run it in and out as you need it. And then the other end is made like this, a curve on it, so it's sort of like this type of a deal. It's called a J-bolt. So this hooks into the car, and then this goes through the end of the strap, and the other end of the strap kind of hooks into the car without a bolt. It's got like a little slot, and it's got a little made so it can, you put it in sort of at an angle and twist it, and it locks it in. So you only need 2 bolts. Well, because I didn't look at these close enough, I just saw those straps laying in the trunk, and I thought, well, straps are there, and I assumed the bolts were there. Well, one was. Couldn't find the other one. So I'm assuming what happened to the other one is the same thing had to happen to this one, is I tried everything in the world to get this thing loose where it would start turning, and it just wasn't having it. It started bending it, and I mean, I torched it and heated it and all that stuff, and nothing. So it wasn't coming loose. I couldn't adjust it. So anyway, I just went ahead and gave it its medicine and just cut it off with the wheel, and so the grinder, and cutting disc, I guess. Anyway, that's that. So now I'm just out of bolts, and there is no way, no how, not ever are you gonna find these around here, ever. You have to order them. So here I go again. I got to order something else. So that'll be here probably sometime this week, and I've got to go out of town this week again to work. This is, I guess I've mentioned numerous times, this is in the business I'm in, this is our busiest time of year. So I have to be where I'm needed. So I got to do that. So anyway, we'll wait on those, and we'll proceed. The fuel line is in. The fuel line went in pretty good. I was for not doing this in a long time, I think pretty good on this. Yes, there's a jack stand under it. There's that. It's tied into the front line. And it's going back and did pretty good with it. Got it in all the brackets it goes in. The rear is routed a little bit differently than it was originally, but those were some hard 90-degree turns to make back there, and I just didn't feel confident enough in my ability after doing it all the way from the front to the rear to try to duplicate every one of those. So I just kind of routed it a little loosely, but it's going to be fine. It's going to miss exhaust and all that, so we're good there. So what can you do, you know? Just to wait on the gas tank bolts. But I moved on to something else. I have been having some leaks up here. The amount of time that I run this car, I've noticed that it was leaking coolant back here at this little, it's a little junction deal there, and there's a couple issues with this. I've already put one of the hoses back on one of those worm drive clamps, because I don't like using on one of these, because ideally the spring clamps, like on those up there, that's what these things here are, work well because they're constant tension and they do good and they don't cut into the hose and yada yada yada. So anyway, so that's the deal with that. So it was leaking, and I think the one on the bottom's okay. It was looked okay, but this one, something violent has happened to this one. It's kind of been bent a little bit, and kind of, you can't really see it too well, but the top of that tube there has got a crease on two sides of it, this side and the far side. I can feel it with my fingers, so you have to get the hose all way up there to get back to a round place. Round things, like Phil says. And so that's that. So that was contributed to not sealing. And then these are, I think these are, what are these? 5/8 hoses. And so these are the clamps that I took off of it, and I was digging through my clamp box in there when I put all this together, and I thought I had the right ones, but as you can see, I put clamps on that were too large. See how that's definitely different. It doesn't look like it may be on the camera, but it is. So anyway, the one on the left is the correct one. So I dug around some more and got two of the right ones for it. So well, what's going to have to happen is I've got another worm drive clamp. I'm going to just put that one on that one back there that's kind of bent up, because I still don't think those will do that. At least the thing about the worm drive clamps is you can just crank the crap out of them and get them cinched down, and usually it'll stop a leak. But we'll try that. And I'm going to take some, as I'm putting them on there, I'm just going to kind of try to disguise them a little bit, and I'm going to go get some white paint and put in my, what I do is I take one of my old paint can caps, and I'll take the paint, spray can of paint, and spray that in there, and it's kind of a real thin paint, but it's easy to get on there and spread and control. So I'm just going to paint those with some black paint so they won't stick out like a sore thumb. But that's all I can do with it, because I can't have a leak. I mean, this is not going to happen. And these up here are also leaking, and I think that is for the same reason as the other ones, that yours truly just didn't pick out the right clamps. So I'm gonna, these things are a pain to deal with, but I'm gonna get in there and redo all that and see if I can get the leak stopped. Shouldn't be such a big ordeal, should it? Okay guys, well, we're going to do that, and then I think after that I've got my turn signals repaired and rebuilt, so I'm going to put those back in and get rid of that bungee cord that's hanging off there. And hopefully, if the weather holds out, things should be moving pretty fast with this, because I've got the brake hoses and the wheel cylinders, they came in, and the tires came in. They're sitting in the living room, 4 brand new tires. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I can get this thing at least drivable, and maybe do a little bit of touring around with it here pretty soon, and just kind of, probably not going to do a lot of driving with it over the winter. I'm just going to mainly spend time just kind of 100% and everything, and maybe if I feel like it, I may get into rebuilding the air conditioning system too. So we will see, but I've got a few irons in the fire right now. I've got to do this, and working on the Plymouth in there, and this one over here is dead. it's got to have the ignition system replaced on it, because I fought my last battle with that HEI crap. That thing has gotten worse and worse. Just no. So we're taking that off, and we're going to put the Chrysler system back on it that came off that green Valiant. I salvaged off of that one. So anyway, lots to do, guys. So try to keep from getting discouraged about this sometimes, because I like to proceed kind of in a linear fashion. I like to do one thing and go to the next, and I'm not crazy about having to stop something and go to something else, but I'm making myself do it just for y'all and for myself. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, all right, so I think today is going to be the day finally to get this tank put in. And I've had some setbacks with this, trying to get everything together. I thought I had bolts, thought I had this, thought I had that, and I didn't. So anyway, I've got everything I need now, I believe. I do have the straps. You don't see them, they're elsewhere inside, but this is what I was waiting on the very last to come in, and these are these J bolts, as I call them, and these are what the tensions, the straps that go across the tank, because then it's in the car to keep it from falling out on the ground. So these are woo-hoo-hoo, supposed to be all like original, green, anodized, yada yada, but they do fit, they do work, so good. This is a sending unit that I had to order to go in the tank itself, and a lock ring. I have to figure out how that one goes on there. That's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but we'll figure it out. Then I got this thing, which is the filler neck seal, where the filler neck tube on this goes in. I have to remember which way this goes. I think it goes in like that, and that will not be easy to get that in there, I'm sure, but we're going to work on that. And such as that, get that in. I cleaned the filler tube up. It's kind of gnarly and nasty, but we're going to get that done. And I think this is it, ready to go in. I've already painted this thing, and I have my insulating pad of a thing that goes across the top of it. I have it in the trunk over there, so I'm going to get it out and put it on before we're ready to do this. So anyway, just want to bring it up to speed. Hopefully the next you'll see, this thing will be in. So you can see, if I don't knock the camera over, you can see why I had to end up getting a new filter tube seal. Let me get around over here where I can talk better. Anyway, this thing is pretty, as the Brits say, this thing's pretty perished. It's rotted and dry and everything, so it's actually not as good of a seal, it doesn't look like, as the one that I put in there. The one put in there is a lot deeper, and it's got a double lip on it, so that's good. I didn't know if I told you where I got that. Believe it or not, in this great country of ours, you can find just about everything, but that filler neck seal came from a company called Filler Neck Supply. So whatever your needs may be for filler neck parts and services, feel free to contact Filler Neck Supply. So this thing kind of goes in like this. It's got a little bracket up here that connects up to the car, and this thing is kind of a little hit right here, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's not going to hold it off, because if you look in there, there ain't no unleaded only in this baby. It's a big wide open nozzle ready to receive copious amounts of premium high test gasoline, or ethyl, if you will. So this thing's, it's like I said, it's a little crusty, so I'm going to spend some time just kind of getting this cleaned up and things, and it's going to, you know, I don't think it's going to be a problem, because there's shiny metal under it. It's a little bit of a combination of just like barnacle gas deposits and things like that. So we're going to work on this and see how we can get it to look and go from there. This tank, I'll tell you something about this tank, the way these things vent. This was before the federal cars had to have any kind of vapor recovery systems. And now in California, they started, as people like to say, the communist state of California. I don't agree with that necessarily, but because I'm not really one of these people that's always anti-government, and everything the government does and says is wrong. Of course, in these recent days, I agree pretty much everything they've done is wrong. But anyway, another story for another time. But They started vapor recovery efforts to keep pollution down and smog back in the early 60s, and it was just pretty primitive. They just tried to keep the vapors in the tank and all that, and what their first idea was to recover the vapors out with the expansion. When the gas expanded in the tank due to heat, they sealed the cap. They didn't have a vented cap, and they routed them back up to the engine. And the first thing they tried to do is they tried to route them into the engine to be burned, like via the oil, the crankcase breather. They would route the tank vent to that, and it diluted the oil, and so it was very good. So then they went on to the charcoal canister that we know now. But these cars, the federal cars back in like 60s, up to through like 69 or 70, I guess, whenever it was, they finally started doing something about this. Might have been 71. This one just vents. It's got a vent up on the front up there, a little tank vent, and it runs up to a line that all it does is it goes out of that line and goes up to the frame of the car and loops down 90 degrees, or 180 degrees, I'm sorry, and points straight back down in the frame rail. That's it. It's open to the atmosphere. No problem. And the Valiant in there, the 68, is sort of the same way, except its tank is situated differently. It's got a long filler neck. It goes up through the inside of the trunk, and it's got a line that comes along the side of it, and it goes up almost to the inside of the trunk wall, and then it loops around again and comes back. Well, I'm telling you wrong on that one, actually. What happens is the origin is up at the end up there, near where it goes through the side of the trunk on the inside, and it loops around, the line comes down, loops around, goes all the way through the seal down there where the tank filler neck seals, and it just terminates in the frame rail, so you smell gas when you fill up. Everything's great. And this cap, I don't know, it's probably the original. This is stamped. It's got an S on it, but I don't think this is vented at all. When it's closed, it's closed. Yep. So, amen and hallelujah. Fill her up. All right, I'm going to get cracking. Get on with this and proceed forward. Well, I almost forgot to show this before I put this gas tank back in. It's not ever been in before. So I got everything prepared. Got the sending unit and fuel pickup in, and line on to go, and a vent line. And this tank came with 2 vents. Some have 1, some have 2. This one had 2. So that's just the way they are. They only make 1 of these tanks. So if you don't need the other vent, which is the case here, then I plug it off. And what I did was I took a piece of this good line and just cut it short and filled it with sealer and made myself a plug, because those awful cheap caps that you get at the parts store these days are terrible. They're designed to disintegrate after about a year. So if you put one of those on here, you'll definitely be doing it again and again and again. So I'm not going through that. This will last for years. So that's what I do to seal that off. And put on some spray tack and tack down my insulating pad again. Keeps the tank from rattling against the frame of the car, or just keeps it from metal on metal. And yep, somebody's mad about the shutdown over there. And then got a new seal in and clean that filter all up, so we're ready to go. So I'm just gonna end up sliding it under there. Got the scene all prepared, got my straps, got my bolts in. And there's the 2 bolts just hang down there on this one, and had to repair that, put another end on that from one of my spare harnesses on that fuel gauge, the wire for it. So I did that, and so anyway, yeah, got my bolt for the neck over here. Okay, so now comes the fun part. And I'll just show you real quick also how these straps go in. You've got, right at the side. Here at the back you got little slots, and happens is you just take the, you got a hook in here to this, and you just put it in like that and then pull it down. And it does work, except on camera. There we go. And it just comes down like that. So, and that's it. All right, guys. Let me wrestle this thing in there. I'll bring you back in a little bit. Well, all right then. For the first time in who knows how long, this old Chrysler has got a new gas tank back in it. So we'll go underneath and take a look at it. Wasn't that bad to get back in. It was just one of these wrestling matches. I had to essentially just lay here with it laying on me so I could get the straps started and all that. We'll look at that in a second. But back over here, the book tells you, the factory service manual tells you something that you don't have to do. They say put it in with the damn filler in it. And you don't have to do that because that filler comes straight out and comes out the back, and you can just put it in and take it out at your leisure. It has nothing to do with the tank. So anyway, under here, a little light's kind of pouring. I'm trying to move my big old tanker body under here, but anyway, everything's back together. That's a little look at the straps, how they operate. Just got the J-bolt that hooks in a part of the body right up there where my thumb is, pointing right there. There's a little hook in there and it just pulls down and sits in there. And there's the fuel line. This fuel line that I put in. And I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to do a little bit more work on that fuel line. You see it's up against the car right there, and I don't like that. So I'm going to probably just take some fuel line and split that and put over it, and I'll keep it from rubbing it or anything. So everything that's back together, get the vent back in together, got the fuel gas gauge reconnected. That little deal there that's going along the little strip of metal, that's the ground cable for the sending unit, because the sending unit sits in, well, I don't know, I think that's hooey anyway, because it's got a lock ring that goes right on the tank. So I think it's not really that necessary, but they put one on there, so I put one back. There's supposed to be a chance that you could not have a good ground of the gauge, but like I said, I think that's hogwash. Back in, it's got a bolt that comes through from the trunk right there that holds that thing up to it, and it was bent. That whole bracket was bent. I don't know what happened there, but it's all back in though. It should work good. So I'm going to get my junk out of here, get it back down on the ground, and I got about 4 gallons of gas in the garage in there. I'm going to put gas in it, and I was messing around with the coolant lines. I'm going to reseal those. I'm going to top it up with coolant, and we're going to do a start on this thing and get it going today, hopefully. This is a custom adapter I had to make to get gas in this thing with the gas can here, because this gas filler is at about a 75 or 80 degree angle, and so there's no way I could get that funnel. I can get it in there, but you can't put gas in it because it just runs over the edge of it. So anyway, whatever. Moving on. Okay, everything is buttoned up to the best of my knowledge. I put the battery charger on in a little while. It was not really low, but it's been cold out, and I'm probably gonna have to grind on this thing a while to bring gas up to the carburetor. So I know some of you might say, well, why don't you just prime the carburetor? Why don't you use starting fluid or whatever? Fill the float bowl, but I don't do that because that's a false. I could create a false positive. You still might not have your fuel system all the way 100%. You may have where it's not sucking. It might be sucking air or something, and that may just kind of falsely make you think it is. So I like to make sure by just letting the engine start on its own. So if it doesn't ever start, we know it's not working. If it does start, we know it's working. So all these people that have to put fuel pumps, electric fuel pumps and things like that, you know, he's got something probably not working right. So, all right, so let's see if she goes. I agree. All right, let this thing warm up and we'll take it down the driveway back with the battery charge and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Uh-oh. Thought my gas hand didn't come up yet. Uh-oh. We'll have to look into that, possibly. Uh-oh. Oh well. At least it's running. See you in the next one. The coal light just went out. All right. Bye.